Well, I'd partly agree. I've been on my share of vigils, and they have their place in the panoply of activism, and they contribute. They're a rivulet that contributes to the bigger river, which will one day be a torrent, which will one day sweep all that's rotten away. I've spent my whole life believing that, and I haven't changed. But of course, neither a vigil, nor a picket, nor a demonstration, nor an individual election, nor a radical magazine, or a good video on YouTube, none of these things does it on its own. But all of these things contribute to a change in climate, and things can change. 75 days ago, George W. Bush was the President of the United States of America, and the world really didn't like you. And 75 days later, people have a lot of hope in a new guy, maybe misplaced, at least partly misplaced, almost certainly. But nonetheless, it's a new morning so far as the rest of the world is concerned, looking at the United States, and that just didn't come from nowhere. The change was built slowly, incrementally, by all sorts of means, tactics, strategies, and by all sorts of different kinds of people. I'm just happy to be here in a country that must change its attitude to this issue, and if it doesn't, there's no point in closing Guantanamo Bay. You'll have to open it again. In fact, you'll have to open 100 Guantanamo Bays if you keep on giving Israel every dollar, every bullet, every bomb, every F-16 that it asks for. You're just stoking up trouble for yourselves, for the rest of us, and above all for the people in the region. Of course, I wish that the cost of being right was less. I wish I was sitting in 10 Downing Street instead of here, with all respect. But you know, you have to, in democratic politics, you have to tell people what you genuinely believe. And, well, I've been right a lot. You might have added to that list. In 1990, I was called a traitor for talking with Gerry Adams and Martin McGuinness, the leaders of Sinn Féin in the north of Ireland. I was traduced and insulted and threatened with prosecution and being locked up in the Tower of London. And hey, just last week, Mr. Adams and Mr. McGuinness were sitting with President Obama in the Oval Office in the White House as head and shoulders the two most important political figures in Ireland. So if you have a clear view of politics, which I think I have, if you have a clear perspective, if you have an ideology, which I have, then you can see things in the future that other people can't necessarily see, who lack that ideology, who lack that methodology. So it's not any magical powers on my part. You simply analyze a situation as it really is, not as it superficially appears. Oh no, I'd give it up if I was merely singing to the choir. I have 2 national radio shows every week, which reach almost 2 million people in a country of 60 million. I have 2 international television shows every week, which reach a vast audience in scores of countries around the world. I have a diary which is chock full of speaking engagements. I'm the only political figure in Britain that people actually pay money to come and hear speak. So I'm definitely not preaching to the choir, and if I was, I wouldn't do it. I'm a little surprised you think I'm so polarizing. I kind of thought you were polarizing in this magazine, and I was coming home. But no, you know, if the cost of not polarizing, if the cost of being more popular in the mainstream is to tell lies, not to tell the truth, that's a price that's not worth paying. Well, that's a very good question. If you look at the Arab countries, first of all, which are divided entirely artificially into 23 states. This was done by 2 white men from Europe with maps and pens in the building in which I work and have sat for the last 23 years, namely the British Parliament. These are artificial boundaries. The Arab people are one people. They speak the same language. They have more or less the same culture. They worship the same God. And from Morocco to Bahrain, from the ocean to the Gulf, I would think that the Arabs would begin to become one. If not one country, then definitely one union, one United States, either confederal or federal, which would, I think, be a very good thing and would allow the Arab world to realize its potential, which is truly phenomenal. If you think of a landmass from Marrakesh to Bahrain, with all that water, all that oil, gas, people, culture, history, it would be a phenomenally important group of countries, states in the world. As to the little sliver on the Mediterranean, which is all that the Israel-Palestine piece of land truly is in this great land mass, smaller than a park in South Africa, for example, in the Kruger National Park, bigger than all of Israel-Palestine. That would normalize itself and its relations with the Arab hinterland if there was peace. What the country would be called, I don't know, maybe Israel-Palestine, but it would have to be one country. It's too small a piece of land to make it two countries, especially as the Palestinian part of what would be two countries has been completely built upon, and apartheid walls, settlements, ethnic cleansing, population transfer, and so on. It's made the idea of two countries in that little piece of land untenable. So whether it was called Palestine-Israel or Israel-Palestine, it would be one country, and it would be at peace, and it would be in amity with its hinterland. And that would be a good thing for everybody in the world. But without that justice, there definitely won't be any peace. No justice, no peace. It's not rocket science.